So Iran has declared their assault on Israel a victory and that they would not conduct any more attacks so long as Israel didn't respond. Now, there are a few things worth mentioning with regard to this attack. First and foremost is it wasn't a success, despite whatever Iran says it was. It pretty much was a failure. In fact, reportedly 50% of Iran's missiles malfunctioned during the assault. Number two is Iran's statement is clearly a veiled attempt to say basically, we're cool if you're cool, and then follow up with, hey, please be cool. But honestly, we're going to see what Israel's response is at this point. And number three, the involvement of Jordan and Saudi in the engagement is significant as they continue to choose the U.S.-Israeli side here. With that being said, these Iranian missiles did traverse into Saudi and Jordanian airspace, and given the tense relations they have with Iran, of course they would shoot them down. But following the assault, Iran issued a severe warning against the United States' involvement. Chief of the Iranian Armed Forces General Staff, Major General Mohammad Bagheri, emphasized that Iran would target American bases in the Middle East if the U.S. supported Israel's potential response to this attack. He detailed that during the assault, Iran was aiming for military installations within Israel, such as the Israeli Defense Force Air Force Nevatim Air Base in the Negev Desert and the IDF Intelligence Center at Mount Hermon. Now, despite the attacks, damage at the Nevatim base was minimal, and the base continued to operate normally. The Intelligence Center reported no damage. Major General Abdul Rahim Mousavi, who is another high-ranking military officer in Iran, echoed Bagheri's statement by declaring U.S. bases as a legitimate target if they were utilized to aid Israel. Well, they've been aiding Israel, so they've been a target. It's just rhetoric. Concurrently, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi threatened an intensified response to an Israeli retaliation, pressing the U.S. and its allies to acknowledge the proportionality and restraint of Iran's initial actions. And that goes back to what I said in my previous video and what I alluded to earlier. This is Iran basically saying, hey, we just responded. Everything's good. We're equal now. And then hoping that Israel feels the same. From some of the backroom listenings of what's going on within the Israeli Defense Force and their war cabinet, it might not be as cool as Iran's been thinking, but we'll have to see. Now, what is also interesting here is IRGC Commander Hossein Salami disclosed that Iran has revised its approach to confronting Israel, citing the operation which Iran has dubbed True Promise as a success. He announced that Iran would now directly target Israel from Iranian territory in any future engagements, which is a departure from what they used to do, which is using proxies in other countries to just kind of conduct terrorist acts against Israel. And this brings up a question of what the future looks like. Does Iran, in their boldness, now have a nuclear weapon? Is it something that they feel that they can do because the U.S. is withdrawing from the world stage, not just the Middle East per se, but also Europe, and something we've seen with Ukraine and the frustrations there with the U.S.'s continued willingness to support? And this is something that Iran may be calculating going forward, that Israel perhaps is a bit more isolated when it comes to the United States than initially thought. President Joe Biden communicated to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that the United States would abstain from participating in any kind of military response. Leaders from the Group of Seven nations in the discussions that followed aimed to formulate a diplomatic strategy in response to the aggression rather than a military one, such as imposing further sanctions rather than some sort of retaliatory strikes from the United States and other nations outside of Israel. Now, within Israel, the reaction to the attack was very concerned, but their response has been measured so far. President of Israel, Isaac Herzog, described the attack as akin to a declaration of war, but later on stressed that Israel does not seek conflict with Iran. Members of Israel's war cabinet, including Benny Gantz, stated that Israel would choose an appropriate time to respond, but as of right now, they haven't done so. The Foreign Affairs Minister of Israel reiterated that any attack by Iran would be met with an Israeli counterattack, reinforcing Israel's longstanding defensive stance. So the thought process here is that there will be a retaliation from Israel. There won't be any additional retaliation that comes from any other country at this point, and we'll see what the retaliation looks like. Will it be measured? Will it be proportional? Will it be stronger because Israel is facing down a series of challenges when it comes to Iranian proxies, and they need to send a message to Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah, etc., and therefore attacking the head of the snake, so to speak, which is Iran itself, is something Israel may do to send such a message.